So, you want to become a boss raid Abrams in your pubs? Don't worry, this is the right video for you. My name is Kapten. I have over 700 Abrams games and I'm the rank 1 Abrams in Europe. So, what we're gonna go over in this video are two styles. The first one, my personal favorite, is melee. Now, the melee style is perfect if you want to punch the shit out of people, make them be afraid of you as if you were a demon. But be aware, for this playstyle is difficult and requires great trickery and flexibility. However, if you are to master this playstyle, know that it will be greatly rewarding because this shit is fun as hell and it's a great reward. Now, the second style we will be talking about is Spared Abrams. And this is great if you want to suck people off. But in all seriousness, this is probably the best Abrams playstyle right now because you simply have so much survivability. Like if you suck 4 people at the same time, you will just never die, as you can see in this clip right here. The pros of this playstyle is that it's pretty consistent, a lot easier, and generally more survivable and tanky than the more assassin-like melee Abrams. However, the playstyle is not without its cons, because it is pretty hard countered by gun characters and the general lack of spirit in the enemy team. The reason for this we will go over later in the video. So, let's get into your jobs, Abrams. First job you have is to start fights by stunning someone who is either out of position or a high priority target, such as a Wraith or a Vindicta. It's really important for you to think about who you need to charge in fights. In my opinion, this is Abrams' biggest strength, and this is what you should mostly be prioritizing. However, your second job is to peel for your team. You need to be a shield, so you do that either by just running in and soaking damage, or disrupting them with your ult and just causing freaking chaos so they don't shoot your team. At the first wave, when you first get into your game, always take a good position. Abrams' lane is not necessarily very powerful, but it's very good at drawing a lane thanks to his great regen and his charge potential into Guardian. It's really important that you make sure to always try and either play in the Veil, on top of the bridge, or behind an object that lets you get a right hand peek. Shotgun characters in Deadlock are generally really good at abusing right hand peeks in lane. Always keep that in mind. That was the more basic lane info. Now for the more advanced things. As I said earlier, Abrams is great at charging people into his tower. However, there's a correct way to do it. Because if you charge someone into your tower and stun them, they will actually take less damage than if you were to charge them towards your tower and cancelling the charge right before you stun them. The reason for this is that the charge has some sort of weird displacement that makes them unable to move for a little bit, as you can see in this clip. This results in them taking a bit more damage, so keep this in mind. As Abrams is a bit of a noob in lane, it can be good to try to improve your economy and just go for boxes and take camps. In general, Abrams is pretty good at stealing the enemy camp, because if they come and fight him in the camp, he will simply heal up and has potential to charge them. Another option would be to just run boxes, and in general it's a pretty safe option for Abrams, as we have discussed he's not the greatest laner. A good option is to go into the enemy subway and either gank the mid lane, or simply take all the boxes. Here's the team composition we're against, so let's note some things. The First thing I see is that the enemy has a lot of gun damage. Items such as silencer and inhibitor that are commonly bought by these gun characters hard counter the Spirit Abrams playstyle. Additionally, there is no character such as a Shiv to consistently proc your Witch Mail. Also, my team is almost full spirit, so it would also just be more value to go gun here. As such, I would probably go melee this game and just punch the shit out of these fools. The point of showing these compositions is to make you think about what you want to build this game. For example, if the enemy team has Vindicta, Viper, Venator, freaking Gun Bebop, like bro, you ain't proccing your Witchmail on freaking nothing, man. And I'll tell you, Phantom Strike has some big value there, so that would be a much better punch game. However, if the enemy has Infernus and Shiv, these two characters alone already proc Witchmail like kings. In my opinion, Witchmail is the core item of the Spirit build. So if you do not have characters such as this, personally, I would just go punch instead. But I'm telling you, if you're against these characters, man, that's the most free slurping game you ever goddamn seen in your life, my brother. Now go on. Here are pictures and build IDs for what I would build. I'll go more in depth into the build at the end of the video. As Abrams in the mid-game, your role is not necessarily to be the most farmed guy on the team. However, I think in lower ranks, it might be more beneficial to just soak up all the farm and try to solo carry, because Abrams is also quite proficient at that. So let's take a look at the map. Where would Abrams best be positioned? Abrams by himself is not all that strong on a side lane because he is not the greatest at farming, and he's also not the greatest at 1v1s. In Deadlock, the side lane is best lent to a character who farms well and 1v1s well and has solid escape potential, like a Mirage or a Wraith. Additionally, it's important to have solid walker damage, as the main goal of pushing a side lane is to kill the walker. Abrams does not really have that. Of course, if you're in a pub and no one's farming or you don't have a carry, then go ahead and farm side lane, that's completely fine too. As such, the best lane for Abrams to play in would be the middle. Usually you want to push the wave with your fists, and after you push the wave, you could look for objectives such as urn and buffs, or even enemy camps such as sinner sacrifices. Abrams is better at fighting in the enemy jungle than farming. Now when it comes to playing objectives in the minigame, generally you want to be the one running the urn. Because if you on Abrams run the urn and they walk up and punch you, you're gonna freaking punch them back and they're gonna pay for it, you know what I mean? So you wanna make sure to dunk that shit like LeBron. And trust me, this will win you more games than you'd ever think. So to best understand how to play the late game, let's combine some different areas that we have learned. First, we play around the mid wave. We try to push the mid wave. Afterwards, we look for a pick, just like in the mid game section. We know a couple of things. We know that 7 is getting ganked on the bottom left, and we know that their lash is on the top right. As a result of us pushing the mid wave, we are now able to flank the enemies on the left side of the map. And this leads us to getting kills and an advantageous fight that ultimately leads to mid-boss and a win. So in a way, all of this leads us back to the very beginning of this video, where I explained that Abrams' job is to get a pick. Generally, the best way to get this pick is to either have a flanking position that is gained by pushing a mid-wave, or by being stealthy and hiding on the map. At this point of the game, the only thing that really matters is that one team fight that leads to mid-boss. And as Abrams, your role is to start that fight and secure that mid-boss for your team. broad combo. Generally, for the melee build, the things to look out for are the 1600s and whether you get Phantom Strike early or not. Along with that, there's also some defensives you might want. First of all, Trophy Collector is not mandatory. If it's a really good Return Fire game, say you're against Venator, Bebop, and Viper, then you should probably pick up Return Fire or even Battle Vest. And say if you're against Full Spirit, then Enchanter's Emblem might be better. If you're against Vindicta, Talon, Lash, buying Phantom Strike early could be really beneficial. Lastly, the 3200s you might want can depend on the game. If you're against the full gun draft, Warp Stone has value, and so does Bullet Resilience and Metal Skin. If you're against Full Spirit, Spirit Resilience is strong. If you're against characters like Shiv and Infernus, Dispel Magic is really good, and Counterspell is really strong against characters such as Lash. For the Spirit build, the same things apply as for the melee build relatively. However, some things differ. For example, your 1600s could be a Healbane or a Wrestle Locket. And Healing Booster is also very beneficial for the build, and so is Spirit Lifesteal, so there's a lot more competition there. You really want to get Witchmail relatively early, so the build is quite greedy. If it's a bad Witchmail game, then honestly you should probably just skip it and look for something like cooldown or escalating earlier instead. So, thanks for watching my guide, guys. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/CaptenEL. Holy shit. All dying, all dying, all dying.